Oh God. So, Riddhi ma'am, what are these conversations about freedom of speech suddenly circulating on social media?
Oh, you didn't know about it or what?
No.
So, in the recent past, there has been an incident with regards to a famous YouTuber and podcaster. There was something with regards to them that, some kind of speech that had taken place, and that wasn't very much appreciating to the community guidelines, because of which there has been a lot of hue and cry. You tell me, how much do you know about freedom of speech and expression?
That I can say whatever I want to.
No, that's not the case. Wait, I'll explain it to you in the class. Come join me. Why don't you also join in? So, talking about your freedom of speech and expression, or rather, all our Indian citizens' freedom of speech and expression, it is very important for us to understand one major thing. My freedom ends at your doorstep. Now, when I try to talk about all of these things, there is a thin line between these two terminologies. What do we mean by this? One being profane versus obscenity. Let's try to dive in little deeper into this and understand the terms while understanding the current controversy that is going on. At the same time, why are we discussing all of this? Because this has been a major thing, or rather an event that will play some importance for your upcoming examinations, be it CLAT, be it ALET, be it MHCT, any of the examinations. So let's get into this. Now, talking about the freedom of speech and expression, there are major things that are a part of it. Number one being what? It aligns with the legal guidelines. Now, what is this or who is it for? It is for the digital content creators or digital creators per se. Similarly, it maintains or it needs to maintain some ethical standards. Now, what do I mean by ethical standards? See, this may feel a little bit of an ambiguous term to us. Sometimes my ethics may not align with the other person's ethics, although there are certain decided or certain measured ethics, and understanding the same, it is decided. Similarly, as you can see, the digital content creators must ensure that these content, lastly, what? It avoids potential legal consequences. So, if you do not follow these ethical standards for the masses per se, there can be a potential risk of legal consequences, and that is what I'm trying to talk about. Now, as you can see, what precisely happened? Now, you can see that there have been two FIRs by two of the major states where they have, there has been a filing of the FIR. At the same time, there are certain allegations that have been made, not only limiting to the legal part of it, at the social level, or probably at the, at the mass media level, there has been quite a lot of, discussion about it. People have started giving in their opinions. So rather than getting into that, let's try to understand the other elements of this. As you can see public response and legal consequences. Furthermore, there has been a similar past incident, not a very similar past incident, but precisely why am I discussing this case is because this is what was asked in the 2023's CLAT current affairs section, and that is why this becomes important for you all. So make sure that you're paying attention to this, and let's get into it. Now, as you can see, there are multiple laws that play or that make some important element over here. Number one being the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita or BNS of 2023, which penalizes what? Obscene acts or statements made in public. At the same time, we can see the Information Technologies Act of 2000. Now, what is this? The section 67 of this act prohibits publishing or transmitting offensive content online. Furthermore, Cinematograph Act of 1952, what does it do? It regulates the film and digital media content. At the same time, what can you see here? Indecent representation of women, the Prohibitions Act of 1986. Now, while we talk about this, it restricts the inappropriate representation or mentioning of women at the media level. Likewise, there are certain amendments that have taken place in the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules of 2021 concerning the content regulation. Furthermore, community guidelines also play a major role over here, and that is precisely why we are discussing this. Let's try to understand the level of all of this, coming to the first major case of Ranjit Udeshi versus State of Maharashtra. Now, this case is where the Supreme Court thought, or basically you can see that, in which the Supreme Court of India considered one of the major books called as Lady Chatterjee's Lover. Okay, Lady Chatterley's Lover. This book was considered obscene under section 292 of the Indian Penal Code. And finally, the decision borrowed from the 1868 British case Queen versus Hicklin. This brought in India the Hicklin test. Okay, please remember this. है ना? You can see here, which laid down the Hicklin test for determining obscenity. So, Hicklin test also plays a major role in India understanding the term obscene. And at the same time, while discussing obscene, remember the start of this session where we discussed about profane versus obscenity. Now, coming to the next part, the evolution of this. Okay, you can see UK's Obscene Publications Act required works to be considered in their entirety, and that is where another major case of community standards test came into picture, which is Roth versus the United States. This case brought in the concept or the development of community standards per se. Furthermore, coming to India, we adopted the community standards test with the case of Avik Sarkar versus the state of West Bengal. These are the three major cases that one must study in order to understand the legal consequences or legalities behind all of this. So you can see it over here as well, that rather as a whole to prevent arbitrary conclusions based on out of context material. So as a whole, the content needs to be understood in order to understand whether it is obscene or what. Okay, so in order, not word by word, but a complete understanding of this should come into picture. Now let's try to understand this in the relevance of our CLAT examination or all the legal entrance tests per se. Now talking about this, as I told you, this acts as a perfect example for our examination. At the same time, there are certain important laws that have been discussed here. Number one being the freedom of speech and expression, and then which is of course under the Constitution of India. Then you have criminal laws, you have cyber laws and all the other emerging legislations. Just to tell you, which is with regards to BNS, there are more emerging legislations that have come into picture. So all of that. Furthermore, it keeps us, so how are you supposed to prepare for it? You must stay updated with these contemporary legal issues. You need to understand what is going on and keep yourself updated with regards to that. Finally, analyze these cases in order to understand what is going on. And then talking about this, there are certain things that we need to understand in order to make sure that, where do we draw some line. Now talking about this same thing, see, community standards play a crucial role in shaping the legal framework around the digital content. Of course, in today's time, the digital content or digital platform per se has become the new age schools. So when I try to talk about this, it is important for us to understand that how well are we prepared for it? How well are we taking the content per se? That is why your speech or whatever one speaks plays some major role over here. At the more, the balance between free speech and content regulation is equally important. And finally, I have a question for you all. Should comedians or any creator per se be held accountable for these things? Now that's a question for you all to put it in the comment section. Talking about the end of today's session, I have some important updates for you all. In order to get more such content, more such update for this session, make sure that you like, share and subscribe to the channel. At the same time, we do not hold any kind of bias or any kind of opinion for whatever is going on. The video is primarily for educational purposes so that you understand the complexity of it in terms of your exam perspectives. I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, bye bye, take care, and all the best.